Scandinavia's weakest economy can perhaps breathe a sigh of relief as GDP data in Denmark surprised on the upside. Joining me down the line to share his perspective is Helge Pedersen. Helge, some analysts said the reasons growth surprised today are improvements in Danish competitiveness and in overseas economies, and that generally today's numbers seem rock solid. That being said, private consumption is stalling. So what is the real economic picture in Denmark?
I would say that the Danish economy is slightly recovering, but also only slightly. Well, today's figure were a positive surprise on the second quarter. However, we saw a downward revision of the numbers for the first quarter. And actually, what we didn't know was that the Danish economy was in recession, in a technical recession in the beginning of the year. So I would say that the economy is still rather weak, but of course we should be happy that exports seems to be growing fairly decent. To my mind, it's primarily because our major export markets are growing again, like Germany and the UK, which are both very important markets for Danish exporters, but also the upswing in the US economy matters quite significantly for Denmark.
The Danish finance minister said that the government will need to keep welfare spending in check, even as the AAA nation has lowered taxes and announced investment measures to support an expansion, citing the country can no longer afford the kinds of entitlements its citizens were raised on. Is this a change in mentality or structural reforms which are required here?
I think that the Danish government actually has undertaken quite significant reforms to try to ensure the welfare state also in the future. But you're perfectly right. If we look just a few years ahead, then the Danish budget deficit will again be very close to the 3% threshold. So that's also the reason that we are warning the Danish government against spending too much money in the years to come. It's for a small open economy like the Danish one, it's indeed very important that we are running a very solid fiscal policy. And to my mind, actually, the finance minister has done a very good job so far during his term.
Norway seemed to be perhaps less hurt economically by the Eurozone debt crisis. Is this purely a matter of natural resources? What sets the two economies apart, would you say, and what can Denmark build on?
In the case of Norway, it is only a matter about natural resources. The Norwegian economy has been running very well due to the very high oil prices. They have had a huge terms of trade gain. And that is what has kept the Norwegian economy up over the past few years. Also, monetary policy and fiscal policy has also been quite lenient in the Norwegian economy, and that has had the impact that house prices have risen significantly as well, bringing more wealth to the Norwegians, which they have been able then to profit on in their private consumption. So the Danish economy can really not learn much from the Norwegian. The Danish economy is much more diversified in its business structure and much more reliant on what's going on our major trading markets. The Norwegian economy is, as mentioned, an oil economy and very vulnerable to changes in the oil price. The Danish economy is, to my mind, much more stable in the longer run.
Investors exiting the euro area last year bought up Danish bonds, rewarding the government for keeping its debt load less than half of the eurozone average. Are these levels sustainable? What is your outlook for Danish bonds and indeed the Danish krone?
Here we should primarily look at the spread to the German Bund, and I think that the levels which we are facing right now, they are clearly sustainable. Danish government bonds are right now trading at a higher rate than in Germany. But I think that due to the good and very solid public finances and a very healthy current account surplus, then the spread will definitely not widen, and I'm absolutely certain that the krone will be rock steady against the euro. That has been the primary target for the Danish Central Bank ever since the beginning of the 80s, actually, to keep a fixed exchange rate regime, and they will stick to that. So the krone is really rock steady against the euro.
Helge, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Well, that's all from me for the moment, but as usual, the Dukascopy TV team has plenty more to bring you before the trading week is out, so please do keep clicking back to the website. Goodbye for now.